Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Weekend Warrior Show presented to you by MMA TORCH. I'm Rhys Lawrence, and joining me as always is Chief Editor of the Torch, Sean Covington. You can't see him, but you'll be hearing him as we talk about all things UFC 276, headlined by, of course, Israel Adesanya with another win, another title defense against Jared Cannonier. A lot to go through, Sean. Obviously, we'll start at the top of the bill, but Israel Adesanya does what he does, defends his belt for the sixth time. I mean, there's obviously little bits and bobs to go through in terms of what maybe the reaction was around his fight. Maybe the last couple of fights, in all truth. Um, Perhaps not all down to him. Obviously, it's the guy that he's fighting as well has got to bring it. And perhaps there is that element of people being caught in a trance against this man. But what did you make overall of Izzy and winning another title at defense last night?
Okay, so let me say this. I told you, well, I'm not in the best. I'm not in the. I don't get moods. I don't have mood swings. Moods are weird to me. Like you are who you are. If you have a mood, you're not really dealing with things correctly. But I have a really bad toothache. That's no why I'm not on your screen for those watching. My tooth is killing me. It has been for a while, but talking about these fights really perked me up. And I mean down to the final. Literally, when you asked me the question, I just found new life. Funny because I wish Jared Cannonier had found that life during this fight. you know? But yeah, man. A side note, I hate to sidetrack everything like this, but you got to get out here, man. People, it's the 4th of July. I know you don't give a shit about the
Uh,
4th. It's not your independence, right?
no.
But, 4th of July, people are going swimming, they're going tubing and stuff. It's going to be like 100 people just in a certain group floating down the river. You got to get out here, man. We got to put you on like a 2 or 3 year program at least to visit. I got people out in Vegas right now, too. This is where it's at. This is where it's at. That's what ultimately made me think about it. You got to get
Yeah.
out here, man. Whether it's to
No.
Vegas or not.
Well, actually, a friend of mine, he was out at the fights last night, and I think it might be the first time he went. Oh, not obviously you're talking about just going to America, but it was the first time at the fights for him, and it's just different for us, like us guys here, that we see it. I think that you see it in the fights as well, and we're not just talking about like what going to a fight. We're talking about living there, what you can experience there in America in the big cities, but just like you see it with the crowd reactions to fight, you guys are so spoiled, it's unbelievable. And in 2 weeks' time, you will see another UFC London card, and the difference in the appreciation. And it's nothing to do with you Americans as people. It's just because you've got event after event after event, and it's just booing Izzy's fight and other fights, and you just think if that was in the UK, there would be no boos. It would just be all cheers. And
Right.
yes, it wasn't like it wasn't a competitive fight. Really, it wasn't a great fight in terms of the casual viewer enjoying what wasn't, in fact, the pretty much the greatest striker. We could argue that the man he's going to fight next could be rival him and Alex Pereira, but yeah, one of the best strikers we've ever
Wrong
seen.
about him.
Yeah, we
Alex
are going to talk
Pereira beat
about
the
him.
hell.
But
I was
Sean,
super
just
wrong about him. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the best
Back.
striker in UFC history, potentially one of the top three, five, and he's getting booed. I mean, that's because of the, like I said, the American. He
Well, yeah.
just
Let me get
spoiled.
to that.
Go ahead.
Um, he delivered. So as analyst, he delivered. What do I think about the fight? I think he put on a master class. I think he beat the hell out of Jared Cannonier. Maybe not a master class. That would
No, but
probably
you're,
be
you're
like
right.
a
You're right. You're
yeah.
right. You're right.
But for fans, it's different. Actually, he should have felt embarrassed and should have been really upset with himself. But I don't expect him to. I get it. He can't just say, "I let you guys down" and stuff. He did what he was supposed to do. You can't just go in there recklessly and then get knocked out by Jared Cannonier. You can't do that. You just can't tell your fans, "Hey, man, I'm gonna just put my face out there and see what happens." No, like you have an obligation to yourself and so many others, your coaches, everybody, to do your best. If doing your best isn't a great fight for fans, well, that's too damn bad, you know. With that said, I'm a fan too, as well as an analyst, and it was bullshit. So, so it's a catch-22, man. For him, it's like when the Golden State Warriors got Kevin Durant. They did what they were supposed to do. They got the best free agent out on the market. They convinced him to come to their team and make them better and get rings and not be and be unrivaled. They don't want to have to actually fight for position and stuff if they don't need to. If they can go out and crush everyone, they will. That's what they did. Definitely good that they did that. But from a fan perspective, oh my God, that was lame. It was lame that he went and did that. So there's always going to be two sides to the story when it comes to this. So there's there's winners and there's losers. But at the end of the day, we're going to get Izzy winning gets us to the fight we want to get to. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't have a good fight this time, then we can start to talk about Izzy in a different light because he can put on some anticlimactic fights. You came out, you did the Undertaker opening. Beautiful. Everybody was up and everybody's like, yeah. And then you come out and you lay a dud, lay an egg.
Well, we're going to get onto the Undertaker bit. Funny enough that Vince McMahon and Triple H and Stephanie and Pat McAfee were sat probably 2 rows behind the cage. So that was, I don't know if it was planned. I think as he said in his press conference, it wasn't planned that they were going to know they were going to be there. But I was going to ring that up because obviously, analysing the fight itself, is he doing what he does best? Didn't really have too many issues. Obviously, around maybe 3, you could argue went to Cannonier. 4-1 probably was. You could argue 5-0. I mean, it wasn't competitive, I don't think. But I was thinking that when I was watching it, that round 4, end of round 4, start round 5. When you hear the commentator starting to go, let's look ahead to the future, and be getting excited when Cannonier could throw anything. For me, those fights, they're the worst because when you're watching a guy Cannonier, and there's no competition in it, Sean. Like at a certain point, he could do. At a certain point, no, there's nothing he could do.
Yeah, there was nothing he could do. It wasn't like he's the caliber of a Max Holloway. He's not that caliber. This is his first title fight, and he's stepping in there, and it's like, what? You didn't even show up. Like whatever. Izzy said, "Oh, they had a good game plan." I was like, "Hey, man, first off, you don't need to lie. You don't need to lie to me. I'm watching the game plan. It failed miserably." He said he had a good game plan, and I was like, way to sell the fight. You already sold the fight. Don't blow smoke up my ass. That was disrespectful to us. It really was. I get what he was doing, and from a certain point of view, sure, that's what you want to do. You want to talk up your opponent and say, yeah, no, he did good. That was bullshit. He didn't. He sucked. It was ass. It was terrible. From what we wanted to see, you come out like the Undertaker. We thinking you're gonna rip each other's heads off. Nope. Tell me an Undertaker match that was that bad. Oh, maybe Goldberg and Undertaker. There you go. That was Goldberg and Undertaker right there.
It's funny with the Undertaker reference. For me, Sean, like I say, watching 4th and 5th rounds, and you're starting to think, okay, Alex Pereira's next, but you're also thinking, like you said, and I like that point you brought up there. It is a bit strange now, and I think maybe we're all looking into this too much. I think Izzy said something about it in the press conference that fans. I mean, you take fans' opinion with a pinch of salt. Guys sat there drunk since 3 o'clock. He said, as well. But you've got guys booing, and I don't think they understand what they're watching. Like you just said, it was a masterclass from an analysis perspective, which it was. And for a guy like you and a guy like me who have watched this and know the level that he's operating at, it's like when Max Holloway and Alexander Volkanovski came out, you knew that the level from what you were seeing to what it was now it just that's the best. Like they were saying as well, that's the two best guys, and the difference in level just from those two to maybe the 4 and 5 and 6 ranked guys. There's a different gulf in level in that itself. And I think with Izzy, you're seeing the best, and obviously the opponents he's facing are number 1, number 2, number 3 ranked guys, and so they're supposed to be, the closest thing to him. He's making them look so distant that it's actually in some ways working against him, because it makes the fights, because he's got to manage his distance and be good at striking, obviously not always looking for the knockout and not getting the knockout. So a lot of the fights are going 5 rounds, not much action. Is he sort of just doing enough in each round? Maybe a 50-45, 49-46, which we've seen in the last few fights. And like you said, with The Undertaker, with all the ring walks, the personality that he brings, for it to just, in the last maybe 4 or 5 fights, just, I don't want to say under-deliver, because at the end of the night, you're still happy with where he is and what he's doing for the sport. But there is that element of, if we just got a more exciting package on top of it in the actual fight.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the guy is one of the biggest superstars in the sport. But could he go up to the next level?
See, here's the thing about it. He did something he should never have done. He hyped himself up to a level he is not actually at. Conor McGregor got to that level, but he fell off of it. He got to the level when he got to fight Floyd Mayweather. That was fantastic. Logan Paul, I feel like Floyd was doing him a favor, or maybe he was doing himself a favor because he got the bag. He got a lot of money. So their arrangement was a little bit different, but you got the McMahon family sitting there. Look at how powerful the people were there. Pat McAfee is also a million. He's a millionaire. So he wasn't some bum just sitting there. You know what I mean? Like Pat McAfee, if you really think about it, that dude's a punter. All right, he was a punter, NFL punter. Not a very glamorous and limelight thing, right? But look at where he was. He got to sit there. Way more money than Israel Adesanya, I tell you that. He could have paid the whole card out himself with what he has. But he was, if we being real, Pat McAfee, he's had, I think, 3 matches, 2 or 3 matches in WWE, and he delivered. That's a guy that delivered. Like I'm saying, he didn't build himself up to be this super great, all this stuff. He's a punter. He's a former punter, but look at him. He's next to Triple H and the McMahon family. He's next to them. Like the dude is winning. That's how you build yourself up. You just do what you need to do, go where you need to go, and you'll be in the right places. Izzy had to get special permission from them, obviously, to do that, right? They probably gave him the urn. They probably gave him everything, but he can't just use that music. That's you just can't use that. Somebody else came out to Shawn Michaels too, earlier that day. It was in prelims.
Well, someone came out to. Well, I know.
One of the girls.
Yeah,
one of the female fighters came out to Shawn Michaels. I think she got tapped out. Whatever. But that's the precedent that Izzy didn't understand he was setting. You have billionaire Vince McMahon lending you his music. And you got Pat McAfee that's a bigger earner than you, a bigger personality than you, delivering. Pat McAfee just being there was more significant than what Israel Adesanya did in the octagon, is what I'm saying. His performances, Pat McAfee's performances in his career, both WWE, mostly WWE, but his performances as a punter as well, they got him to where he is. He's performed. If I can look out in the crowd and there's a better performer than you, and I can say, shit, you might as well put Pat McAfee in the octagon. Then you didn't do your job. A little long-winded way to say that, but Pat McAfee's a bigger star than Israel Adesanya. More people, I wouldn't say, more people might know Israel Adesanya.
I know what you're trying to say. I think you're trying to. The big thing that I'm taking away is that Izzy is, like I said, I think one of the biggest stars in the sport. Obviously, Conor McGregor will always be number 1, and that will never change, at least in my opinion. You've got the likes of Khabib, who maybe from my standpoint was a bigger star because he had that global reach, and obviously the background of the Muslim community, the Russian following, and more the fact that how dominant he was. It drew in eyeballs. You've got Masvidal, you've got Francis is getting up there. I think with Izzy is probably the one out of all them that's actually really trying. I get this when I watch pre-fight build-up. He's the one on the press conferences. He's the one with the like what Sean O'Malley does with the colourful outfits and stuff. Sean does that to the extreme level of, and he's not on that level of the names I mentioned. But with Izzy, it's like he's really trying to, and I think he needs to, because judging off what the actual fights have been going like, I think if he wasn't to do what he does outside of the cage, I think people start to get turned off.
No, you're right. They're starting to get turned off now. People, here's the thing. That picture of the McMahons, and I didn't notice they were there because I was actually watching Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
And side note, that's probably why the pay-per-view was so great, because the McMahons could just dip off and say, well, give us a second, we'll be back. They could just leave, go to another event there, and who the hell was watching it? Who the hell was in charge? Was it Shawn Michaels? Whoever was in charge. But people always act like the iron grip of Vince McMahon is ridiculous and nobody can take over. He wasn't even there. He left. Everybody left, dude. They all left. You could say, oh well, they made the last fight and stuff like that because it was over. But here's the thing. I know it's Vince and stuff, but they it still takes a little bit to get in there. They got to make sure they check you and all this extra shit. Point being is the story is the McMahon family being cage side, not Israel Adesanya. So he's not, no matter what he's doing outside the cage, what he does in the cage is where he's gonna. That's what matters the most, and he's not getting it done. Now, Volkanovski had to fight Max Holloway a certain way. He wasn't going to fight him stupid. I didn't expect him to rush in and get knocked out, because that could have happened to him. Nor did I expect Israel Adesanya to do it. That's not what we're saying to do. That's not what I'm saying to do. I'm saying you have to turn it up. Like you said, is there another level? Yeah, there's another level, and he needs to be at it and stop being so safe. He was a little bit too safe. If you're that fast, you're that good, you need to spice it up a bit. You do.
Yeah.
Volkanovski had that big cut, and that was it. He didn't really need to do much else. So he kind of rested on that, and that was great. But where's the cut? On Cannoneer, where's the cut? Where's the damage? Where's the something? Where's something I can hang my hat on? Max got beat up. He always gets beat up, though. But Max got beat up. Boom. Volkanovski looks great.
Well,
Israel Adesanya follows the same game plan, essentially. He gets booed. What's the difference?
I think, obviously, Israel defends his title again, like we said. It was he doesn't need to do more. Like, I always feel that with, the challengers got to come out and do something. I think with the people that Izzy fights, they are stuck in a bit of a trance with them. They don't quite know what to do, don't know if they should advance forward too much, be overzealous, because then it might bite them with his striking. And obviously people have tried taking him down, and it doesn't really seem to work. I just feel like, and I'm going to transition this to obviously Alexander Volkanovski's win. Sometimes in a fighter's career, whether they're fighting some of the best in that division at the time as well, like Volkanovski is fighting Max Holloway at the moment. I just feel like when you watch certain people and certain fighters at a certain time, you think this guy's just better. And for Izzy, there hasn't been a guy since he's come along that you could look to and think he's really on his level. I think Whitaker's come close in that second fight, but I think if you were to play out a fight between him and Rob again, Izzy would probably do another performance like he did last time. Quite a close decision, but just uses he's very smart in there. He really is. And I'm not a massive fan of people, booing and things. I can understand why when you're paying a lot of money and you're expecting from the show outside of the actual fight, you're expecting it to go hand in hand, and currently they're not. But one guy that Sean that you've got to um, give that respect to, who perhaps isn't as outlandish as he quite chilled guy, doesn't really talk too much, but has an argument for being the greatest featherweight of all time. For me, it probably just out of I don't know what it is, passion or just for what he did over a decade, would be Jose Aldo. But if you're Alexander Volkanovski, you've just beat Max Holloway 3 times. Now we could argue that it was probably 1-1 going into that third fight. He made no mistake in knowing who was the better fighter last night. My God, it wasn't even close. Sean, what was your thoughts on when you were watching it? I mean, you probably, like me, were thinking, maybe after third round, maybe even before this fight, it's like something had happened to Max or something had happened to Volkanovski, and both of them have just went like that. I don't know. What was your thoughts? Well, there's some good thoughts.
My bad, my dogs were
No, that's
killing
cool.
each
That's
other.
cool. That's cool. I was like, that's some great thoughts there.
um, do you actually have to go run that back a little bit? They were,
Oh no, I
they
was
were,
just yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool.
yes.
I was so basically, I
Sorry.
was saying that's cool. It's cool. I was basically saying that for switching on to Volkanovski, that you know,
Right, just the last bit. I got everything you
yeah,
said.
yeah.
Like the
It
last two
felt.
sentences that I need to hear, I didn't hear.
I mean, what was your thoughts on Volkanovski's performance? It felt like either he was just far, far above Max, or Max maybe had just dropped down in a couple levels since their last fight.
Uh, so, with that fight, if you hear a lot of clicking and clacking, that's the dogs on the hardwood floor. It's the nails. But uh, I have a new respect for Volkanovski because he didn't act like a dickhead like after his first fight. He still said he's not respected, and I get that. I think he's respected now. My biggest problem with him was the way he acted after his first fight, as if it was like this fight. He acted like it was hands down this performance. That's how he acted after the first fight. And no, and a lot of people was like, "Hey man, no, like you didn't just whoop Max Holloway's ass. Like we think you lost." Same thing with the second fight, especially with the second fight with me and a lot of others. Um, and he acted the same way, and he didn't understand why he had to fight him a third time. It's like, well, because we thought you lost twice. That's neither here nor there now. Max Holloway just ain't on his level. That's fine. It happens. If Volkanovski doesn't fight Max Holloway twice, there's no way he could beat him like this. You see what I mean? Like, so it's kind of crazy when you look at how this all plays out, because if Volkanovski had lost those 2 times, would we have gotten a third? Because it would be Max Holloway. That would be the challenger. Max Holloway dominated so long, he got a third fight. All he had to do was win a couple more. I don't think Volkanovski gets a third fight like that. You know how the UFC is. They're like, nah. You're not fighting again. Like look at Curtis Blades. Every time they put him in a position to do something, bam, he's getting knocked out. So it's just really funny how this all played out. And Volkanovski act like we owed him something. We didn't owe him anything because he hadn't proven himself with this sort of performance. Dominant performance over Max. Now that he's done that, I can't say much about him. And he was like, just believe in yourself. Like, I can't hate him now. It's a lot of fighters' attitudes I hate. Sean O'Malley, obviously. But, when a guy comes out there, he fights the way he fights and say, hey, man, I got a lot of haters, which he did. He did. I was one of them. But I have to leave him alone. I'm a critic, right? I'm his critic, but I'm also an analyst. That's the most important part. I analyzed what he did, and I analyzed that I should shut the fuck up. Like that's it. It was a shut up performance, and I got to shut up. That's okay. That's what they're there to do. shut me up. They hear the doubters. They hear the people. They're
Yeah,
not
but
in the
Sean,
echo chamber. Yeah,
yeah, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but like,
you go ahead.
you're the type of person that like can stand by your word, and if you're critical of someone, you've just done, back it up with that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to, but there's so many that are not like you that can admit when they're wrong about someone, and he will continue to get. That's why he was so adamant in his press conference about stand up
Right,
for yourself, and he was literally going at all the press because they you've criticised them, like most people have criticised them. They were doing it. The actual media asking him the
right.
questions. So I just want to say that I think it will continue for him, that doubt, but at least sensible guys like yourself who have criticised him in the past can realise what he did last night shut a lot of people up, because there was nothing to
Yeah.
look at that you could argue for
Even
Max Holloway there.
even before then, I was like, man, I gotta give him his props. Like it happens. Even Aljamain Sterling, I can't stand him, but what I know now is either he is equal to Jan or slightly better than him. That's okay. That's just the facts. I don't have to like him. Like it was that. I didn't think he was equal to Jan after the first fight. Nobody did, because he was losing. But now we could say that he is. It's fine. That's okay. We were saying the same thing about Volkanovski, and he hated it. He was like, I'm light years ahead of him. But we didn't see that. You had 2 fights to prove you were, and it was still really razor thin. And people think you lost. Both of them. So what comes out of this is the him sticking up for himself and having that attitude and chip on his shoulder. Without that, do we get that fight? Do we get that dominant performance? Probably not. So a lot of this hinges on the things that actually happen. I don't think he really realizes that he needs those haters. He needs those critics, because if they didn't say that, he wouldn't have made his game so much better than
100%.
Max Holloway's. Right? He wouldn't have made his. If everybody was blowing smoke up his ass, he probably would have got whooped. Because he would have been reading his own hype. Like, I don't think Israel Adesanya reads his own hype. I think he knows he's really good, but he ain't stupid. He's definitely not stupid.
I think that is a really good point, because he literally addressed that in his press conference as well. Volkanovski saying Max Holloway pretty much did the worst thing he could have done during fight week, because Volkanovski started to feel a bit lulled during fight week, started to feel like, God, I need to, G myself up. He was at the press conference, he was at the weigh-in, and he was feeling a bit, not down, but just, oh, this is just whatever. And then Max would come into his face and charge him right up, and it was like the worst thing the Max could have done. Obviously, that you could argue that that happens a lot in terms of fighters getting into each other's heads, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's it's a fine line.
Fervor.
Yeah.
They lose their fervor, man. When you on top and you thought you won 2 fights already, what's really going to motivate you for the third? He didn't want this third fight. He really didn't. For so long, he was like, I'm better than him. I'm past him. But that's the biggest problem I had with him. And that was stupid. I don't want this third fight. No, man, you didn't win those 2 fights convincingly, and you need to fight him a third time. And if you hadn't won this convincingly and they said fight him a fourth, that's what you do, and shut the hell up.
I think
you gotta do that.
I think
look at Sean Strickland.
Yeah.
Did Sean Strickland need to fight somebody that was unranked? No. Well, not necessarily, but you know what?
Didn't.
That's what you
he did
that's what you better do. He didn't. But guess what? It's better this way anyway, because Sean Strickland wasn't just necessarily going to get a title shot just like that anyway. Like, he had some hurdles to jump through. They just don't want to give you title shots. He talks really reckless. That's not always good for business. It just isn't. The way he speaks, it's not, it's not going to help his fight. It's not going to sell his fights. It's not.
Although he was the standout from the press conference. My God. Sure, I know what you're saying, because listen. Yeah. I mean, some of the things he said. Yes, you probably can't have a champion as a corporation with him as a belt holder. But if he reins it in a bit, then there is growth there in terms of what he could do in the future. But I was interested there, Sean, because we're talking about Volkanovski and him getting a resurgence from perhaps two fights where he thought he won. Obviously, I felt it was 1-1 going into that third fight. I felt like the first fight, it was probably, if you watch it back, it probably was a little bit more decisive for Volkanovski than people think. But we definitely, like you said, we definitely needed that third fight. Maybe he didn't think so because he was 2-0 up, but I think in the end, when you see what he said in this press conference, I think he even felt that he needed that third fight. And now it's just nothing. Like he is. I mean, it's whether or not you believe that maybe Max's best days are behind. I know he's 30 years old, but he's been in so many wars.
He should hang it up. He should hang it up. He takes more damage than anybody you could think of offhand. That's not Clay Guida or
he maybe
Diego
takes more. He probably takes the same amount, but he's taking it against the best guys, and that stands for something more. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a lot of scar tissue, so it's different. Like a Nate Diaz is going to start bleeding when you sneeze on him, But he takes a lot of shots too. But I would say Max Holloway takes way more shots than Nate Diaz. That's crazy to say.
That's a crazy thing, but it's true. It might be true.
Yeah, look at his face. Do your face he looked worse than Nate Diaz.
It's when they did.
I know, like Nate.
Oh my god, that was horrible.
Nate Diaz got separated. Stop. Yeah. It's just, man. So that's the only other guy I can name that's probably taking more shots than Max. Probably, and we don't know. We're just guessing. But no, Max Holloway takes a lot of shots. He can't. That's not good for him, man. He's not going.
Yeah, you did mention that, Sean, before we started, about asking about Max Holloway and is he going to retire and things. I mean, as of right now, no. But
he's not going to have a
I was thinking, yeah. I mean, he's got things other than fighting. I think he's got quite a big brand. He's a big name. He could go and do movies. He could do TV shows and things, business, other sport.
MMA man.
Sure.
If Jessica I retire, and she says she wants a life after MMA, I think you should hang it up if you're Max Holloway, bro. You just lost. She just lost. You're not going to get better. She's certainly not going to get any better. And listen, Jessica I was good enough to be a name. That is not that's not a lot of good women in MMA. It's not. There's no name. Like, I'll put it to you like this. Valerie Laredo is no longer in MMA. That's how crazy it is. I follow Valerie Laredo's entire career. That's how short it was.
I follow her on Instagram. So.
I saw her the first time I saw her. She was in her gi, and she had a bunch of medals and stuff. I was like, "Oh man, who is this?" And I was like, clearly she's some sort of martial arts champion and won some sort of championship. And I was like, cool. She reminded me of like Machida. I was like, cool, we're gonna see that. But she don't listen, so we'll see. We'll see. She doesn't seem very coachable. So WWE will probably have a really big problem with her. But I'm gonna tell you this: she's probably worth all the problems just from the publicity. They signing real, legitimate, big-time athletes. They got Gable Steveson, Logan Paul that fought Mayweather. They got Valerie Laredo, martial arts champion. Come on, man. Holly Holm needs to go over there. Imagine this. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but that's fine. Holly Holm, Ronda Rousey. Ooh, there you go. Right?
I don't even think that's like a crazy thing because I was actually thinking
Holly Holm needs to give it up too. She just lost.
I mean,
I know she's Donald Cerrone. She could fight. She's a great gatekeeper. She could fight. He's been in important fights that would have been title fights. Like a Conor McGregor fight is essentially a title fight because you're gonna get paid like it, and it's so high profile, it's ridiculous. But Donald Cerrone hung him up. Jessica I hung him up. If you Max Holloway, hang him up. That's my whole point. Like, it's something else out there for you. Valerie Laredo, she was like, nah, I'm going to go ahead and get in WWE right now. Why not? So if she's doing it, Paige Van Zandt jumped. She did it. You know, people are not just retiring; they're jumping. You know, their athletes are starting to realize that they're not gonna live very good lives physically, comfortably if they continue. Look at all the running backs, man. Like San Francisco had like 2 or 3 running backs. The 49ers, they had like 2 or 3 running backs retire on them in like the last 12 years or something like that. Retiring at like 30, not even 30 years of age. Like something crazy. But I know those are running backs. They use them up a lot. But Jessica I may as well be a running back, you know, a mid-level running back. She's young. She wants a life outside of it. She's past her prime, you know, and she can't go anywhere but down from here. You, Donald Cerrone, you better be looking at your wife like, I quit, because they finna beat your ass some more if you keep going. Jim Miller, you should have hung it up too. You probably finna get massacred your next couple of fights. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Who cares? Then it makes for good media if I'm wrong, right? But I think he should have retired, so I would have been right, because I said there were going to be 2 retirements. I said there were going to be 2 retirements, right? And I thought
Yeah,
it was going to be him. I thought
and
it was going to be him
Max.
and Jim Miller.
Yeah.
And then I said, you know what? I'm gonna up it. It's going to be somebody else, Max Holloway.
Oh
Or
man. Yeah.
either way, Jessica I was unexpected, but like I thought Max was going to give it up. He should. He hasn't said anything yet, so probably.
I think we said a lot there, but it was funny because I did think similarly I mean, I said something about Cowboy fighting Joe Lozon. It got cancelled, and listen, you know, we're going to get on to Cowboy in a second. He's obviously announced his retirement. What a legend! What a fighter! There is a point where you want to see it. I mean, unless you're some sick person that wants to see old guys get in there and fight still and act like they're still in their primes, like it's just weird. I'm just happy that he's done because I don't want to see that anymore. It's just I think that when the Nick Diaz fight, Robbie Lawler came and Robbie was fighting on the card last night as well. He looked decent, he looked good, but when you start seeing them get peppered with shots and they just can't take them in the way they once did, and it just doesn't look good. It's a horrible thing to look at when you see an old guy that was once great. Still, to be fair, Robbie Lawler, you know, looked really good, but as soon as there was a bit of backlash on those shots, it was like it wasn't the old Robbie that could, you know, walk right through them and be a complete brute force with it. And I just think, obviously, with, you know, Cowboy and, you know, others now that are probably transitioning over, I think it's smart because, you know, like we've seen with Izzy and Vince and Triple H and Stephanie, it's not just, okay, you can go to WWE now. There isn't like, yes, there may be a bit of a blueprint there. Brock Lesnar might have, you know, opened that path, but he was the one that did it in both. It wasn't like a wrestler going to WWE. It was all, well, unless you're CM Punk, but we don't talk about that.
Cowboy, if they could make because Ronda Rousey, by the way, that match was terrible. Oh my God, she was awful in it. And people are gonna say it's Natty's fault. Hey man, listen, she trained Ronda how to wrestle. It's not her. People say, well, Charlotte had a good match, and it's not because Charlotte's good. It's because they were fighting. You know, like it's a very different kind of match than they had. I'm getting to what I'm getting at. If you could get to a shoot fight style like Brock has, but if you're Donald Cerrone, I think that would be Donald Cerrone could come in and be the next Ken Shamrock. If you think about how well conditioned he is and his personality, you can have him go up against a Sami Zayn, a Kevin Owens, mid card. He'd be mid card, but Ken Shamrock was mid card and fantastic. People say mid card like it's bad. Any card's good. Liv Morgan, guess what she was? Mid card. Guess what she is now? Champion. Same thing with Miz and blah, blah, blah. Very few people just start straight off at the top. The Rock had to start at IC title. So did Triple H. Brock Lesnar came in and went straight to the top. He's never held like a US or IC title. Tag. But not everybody can do that. Hulk Hogan had the damn other titles. He had to be a damn tag team champion. Even him. But like Cerrone could come in and do well. I gotta say something else is follow me on this, everybody. You missing Vince McMahon, I'm missing Valerie Laredo. Missed opportunity for somebody to make a lot of money there. I don't know. Just saying. Big missed opportunity. You Vince McMahon, you can go out with a bang Sorry. You can go ahead. Yeah. You
Yeah.
out with
Moving on.
several bangs.
Yeah.
And he messed up. He got Nikita Lyons, Valerie Laredo, and he hired some no name. And I mean, we don't know what she looked like. Some no name paralegal. I don't know, man. Damn,
Well,
that ship sailed. He could have did better, but whatever.
I mean, you know, it's
It's life, man. I'm just bringing up the shit that
no,
people are thinking of.
it's interesting though because I was thinking, when Izzy was fighting, that obviously there is, because the Undertaker thing, it was obvious to start thinking about all that. He would be good in WWE. Obviously, I don't want it to be too much of a thing because I want the best guys at what they do to still be in where they are. I don't want to see Israel Adesanya right now go to WWE. Maybe in like 5-6 years when he's no longer a champion. If he isn't, yes, but. Donald Cerrone, he's talking about going to movies and stuff. That's perfect. Go now. You know, Jessica I go. Like you think
Yeah,
you
she's
said, she's
got the
got the,
OnlyFans and stuff.
yeah, like
And
it's not a
yeah,
bad
like
thing.
she's
It's not, and it's not.
no,
We need to
not at
get off
all.
this like, oh, it's embarrassing, like all this stuff. Like they're trying to make money. They're trying to make themselves as big of a brand as possible. Like
There's no big Playboy payday anymore. You know what I mean? Like
no,
WWE used to set people up to go on Playboy, and it'd be a big payday. It was all good. China, Rhys, Tori Wilson, like a lot of people, man. Candice Michelle, like I'm running out of people. Sable, that's a lot,
Kelly, all them.
dude. Dude, like how many people was getting the bag? Like they were set for life. You think they'd be mad at Vince McMahon? I let him touch my booty if he let me get in the magazine. You know what I'm saying?
Pause.
Man, I think
Pause.
you get grades up against it like it's a bus, like it's a crowded bus. You know? No, okay. Seriously though, I'm making jokes, but um, Jessica, somebody, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's little Twitter stuff going around it. She said she might want to go out into pro wrestling, and I said she had the personality for it. People say, "Oh, she has a personality of cardboard," and I'm like, "You haven't seen some of these pro wrestlers out here." Like, Liv Morgan she was asked a question after she won Money in the Bank, and she delivered a robotic promo. I was like, you clearly memorized what you was gonna say because that's not the question she asked you. But whatever, right? So I was like, man, they actually got a good interviewer that asked the right question, and Liv Morgan fumbled the ball. I think everything is still great about it, but I was like, man, you had a perfect opportunity to answer that particular question, and you said I rose to the top and this extra bullshit. I was like, come on, man. So like Jessica she coming in and do just fine. Just fine. Shotzi Blackheart's being destroyed on Twitter because she was horrible in that match. But not everybody's gonna be Becky Lynch. You think Jessica I's a worse promo than Ronda Rousey? Because I don't.
No,
In
definitely
MMA,
not.
sure.
No.
But like my point is like, yeah, let's get them. Doesn't matter. Her only, if I'm not mistaken, she doesn't like her OnlyFans is non-nude stuff.
No, I don't think
Uh,
so. I don't. What, Jessica?
well, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm a
entirely.
subscriber.
Should
No,
do,
I'm not. I'm not. But like,
I
you
need you to do
know,
some research on this with
I
no
think
company money. Man. You use
MMA.
company money, we're gonna
No,
have to take you out.
no, definitely not. MMA Reddit's a funny old place. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. But no, it's yeah. Moving on.
If no, wait. If she's doing private stuff to people, that's different.
I think it's like, tease more like and
Right.
semi. Not. It's not like full on like
And that's Noelle Foley. Nick Foley's daughter has one, and from my understanding, again, maybe I'm naive. Uh, she's not butt naked in it, but not everybody's butt naked on their OnlyFans. I know that you could pay extra money to do extra shit like Patreon, but if somebody's not actually nude, I kind of don't give a damn. You know, like who cares? You're paying them directly or as directly as you can for their premium content instead of going to stupid Playboy that said, "Oh, we're gonna do this and that now." It's like you had titties in the magazines, you took the titties out, and you don't exist anymore. And we're gonna get back to the articles. Yeah, but like people read the articles and looked at the titties. So
Yeah.
why would you take one out? Why don't you just take out the Pulitzer Prize winning articles then? Take those out.
Well, we spent a lot of time recapping UFC 276 with
Oh,
OnlyFans. I don't know how that's happened, but thank you, Jessica I, for I don't even know it's her or whatever. But no, listen, we're just talking about, we're saying that, seeing what Izzy did, he's becoming, he's a big star. Adding he's a show, he's all about the show. Unfortunately for him, the fights aren't quite delivering in the same way as what he's doing outside of cage. That's only, I'd say, 50% down to him. The other guy's got to come and advance on him. He's probably looking for more of counters and things like that. And also, he doesn't need to he doesn't need to go and win the fight. He can just defend his belt. And I think that's a little bit of what we're seeing. What we didn't see, though, is that from the guy he probably will face next, Alex Pereira knocks out Sean Strickland, who was very vocal this week with pretty much everyone he's seen. The guy's got a lot to say. Sometimes it's a bit crazy to say that as an understatement, but he's a good fighter. Probably, not a guy that you see too often. They're talking about that on the broadcast that, Joe Rogan, DC, I don't think they've called any of his fights. Obviously, he does a lot of the fight nights. I've seen a few of his fights. Obviously, I've seen most of the ones that he's fought in the UFC. And I was a little bit surprised.
He's on a nasty streak, man.
He was on a good
He was
streak.
on a really big streak, yeah.
And to go in against the guy, he wasn't ranked, Alex Pereira, only 5-1, and you got to give him respect that he went in there with a guy who didn't need to, probably could have been one win off a title fight against Izzy. He totally gives up that right now. Alex Pereira knocks him out, and Alex Pereira probably goes on to fight Israel Adesanya with the build-up for that. Probably been a little bit...
And Israel Adesanya wants him. But see, that's the thing. Sean Strickland, as a fighter, did the right thing.
Yeah,
because he wanted the guy that was supposedly better than him that was going to get the title shot. He know what he might talk recklessly, but that doesn't mean that he's an idiot necessarily when it comes to certain stuff. What I mean is he knows that if he doesn't beat Alex Pereira, then we're not talking about him anyway. That Pereira is the guy we're talking about. Is it Pereira? Am I saying it a little wrong?
Yeah, Pereira, yeah.
Yeah. So he knows that's the guy that we all want to see fight Izzy. So if you want to make yourself the guy, you have to beat the guy we're all looking at. Yeah. So he was right to take that fight because no matter if he had beaten the next guy or not, we're not talking about him. So he went in there and put his not his career on the line because he had such a long streak and he talks so much. He can actually get a title fight quicker than a lot of people. So he can get a title fight now because he took the bullet. He bit the bullet. And if he comes back, on like a 5-fight win streak, he's proven himself. He's already proven himself by the fact he fought somebody unranked. It's perfect, man. Like, you got to write your own story. He wrote his. So now people would say, oh, well, he moves all the way to the back of the line. Nah, he's got a few people to fight, and then after that, like, he's got to fight Costa, Marvin, or whatever his name is.
Yeah, he's a couple fights off. He's a couple fights off. Like, it's not...
but if he wins those convincingly, now we're actually talking about him. And that's the thing. He wasn't being talked about before he got his ass knocked out. But now he's being talked about in every sense of the word. But that's good. This publicity is all good for him, even though he says dumb stuff and he got knocked out. Because the guy we're looking at next is him because he stepped up. Nobody else has stepped up.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think the only thing is that, if you're looking at Pereira and Strickland before they fought, who, the winner would fight Izzy. You've got Pereira, the storyline writes itself. Strickland, the build up with the because Strickland doesn't. I don't think because he's not been there yet. Whereas you've seen him at the press conference, that was the first time he'd really done that. But it didn't seem like that because he was brilliant. Like he was firing back at people. He got the better of Izzy. Like in my opinion, like in terms of the verbal. It's not really worth much. Like we look into it as media and stuff and think that it's a big deal. When they get in the cage, it doesn't matter. Luke Strickland got knocked out. You know what I mean? And he won the press conference, but he lost the fight. It doesn't really mean anything. But I just mean that if you look at those fights, Strickland definitely for me would be the bigger and more exciting build up because of the chat because Pereira doesn't speak English, so you can't really get that into each other's heads.
Right. He didn't even know Israel Adesanya. He didn't even know Israel Adesanya called him out live in the ring.
No, he didn't. And but Pereira,
it was crazy.
Pereira,
yeah.
As soon as that cage gets locked with Izzy, it's a bigger fight because you know what you've seen in the last two with those two guys. So obviously with Pereira, that would be a big thing. But what about that knockout, Sean? I mean, did you see it coming, or was it just one of those things that you just like it happened? You were like, oh my god, like that's what the guy is like. He just knocks people senseless. It's crazy.
I saw it. So here's the thing. I saw it coming after he was just in there a little bit. I was like, man, what? I was looking like I was dumbfounded because I was like, what is he doing? Either he's in over his head and he's going to be one of those Johnny Walker playboy types where he's just playing around all the damn time, or he's really good and he's about to boom knock him out before I can finish my thought. He was just doing a bunch of stuff that I hadn't really seen from a lot of people. He was just throwing crazy fakes. He'll feint with this, feint with that, and he'll look like he's about to kick you, but then he elbows you, and I'm like, oh man! I was like, he just comes out of nowhere with his offense, so it was hard to get him down anyway. Just kind of like it is with Izzy. Izzy has more tails, I want to say, but we've also watched him longer. But I didn't necessarily see the knockout coming, but I saw that how much faster he was, and the fact that he wasn't really trying when he was doing certain stuff. Like he wasn't wasting his energy at all. I thought he was clowning around. He was just preserving energy. And Israel Adesanya definitely is going to have his hands full, and it is quite possible he might. Listen, they were saying that he knocked Izzy out with a bigger glove, like in kickboxing. I wouldn't, I think it was Daniel Cormier and Rogan talking about it. They were just putting it in perspective. They was like, man, imagine what he could do. Like if he's still knocking, like if he doesn't have heavy gloves on and he's got these smaller gloves on and he knows his way around these gloves, he's going to knock you out when he hits you. If he knocked your guy out during kickboxing, he's going to knock you out in this octagon. Izzy's probably going to get knocked out. Now, listen, I'm not jumping the gun. It's just that after seeing that fight with Sean Strickland, who's by any means no slouch, it's the length in which Alex Pereira has, and he stays away from you. He was nowhere near Sean Strickland when he was knocking him out. Sean Strickland didn't know whether he should throw a punch or not, but he was nowhere near him, and he just caught him with something. And I was like, oh, shit. I was like, well, I guess that could easily be Israel Adesanya. He moves his head to the wrong place, and he's out of here. Out of here, man.
Well,
he might even go through Izzy's guard.
It's an intriguing fight. It's probably the one I'm most looking forward to in the last maybe, I don't know how many Izzy fights. And, every Izzy fight's good. It's exciting. The build-up. He was in International Fight Week main event with what the co-main event was. I don't think it was a co-main event. It was the biggest, one of the biggest featherweight fights of all time because it was the culmination of a great trilogy. Volkanovski comes off on top. We'll see what happens with Max. It was a good card overall. It was a massive week for the UFC. I felt like everything was about the UFC this weekend. You also had the Hall of Fame as well. Robbie Lawler, we were talking about that earlier. Difficult because he was doing well. Brian Barberina comes on strong in the second round. But I want to get to, we've only got about 5 minutes left here, Sean. I want to give you some time to have your opinion on what was obviously a very disappointing end to what was probably the if you're looking at the card, Alex Pereira probably was the third most anticipated fight with Sean Strickland because of the implications it had on the title. But right behind that, preceding the two title fights, of course, as well, would be Sean O'Malley, Pedro Munoz, because it was the first big step up for Sean O'Malley in terms of competition, and it didn't
Was
quite.
it though?
I think it was because
Was it? I
Pedro
don't think it
Munoz. I think Pedro Munoz is a guy that holds a lot
He
of
lost like
power.
4 of his last fights.
Yeah,
But he
Sean,
lost 4 of his last 5 fights.
Look who
That's
he
it. No,
fought.
they were top quality
They
guys,
were top quality guys, and he's
but he
beat.
lost them.
Yeah, but
But he still lost them.
we're talking about Sean O'Malley, whose best wins, and if you rack up against the guys that Pedro Munoz has beat, that's what I'm basing it on. I'm not saying that Pedro Munoz is this.
You're not wrong.
Cut above.
It was a step up in competition.
Yeah, Jimmy Rivera, Cody Garbrandt, and Rob Font, 3 wins for Pedro Munoz. That is a cut above the level of guys that Sean O'Malley's fought. So that's really where I'm going with it. You're right. Pedro Munoz isn't like this top 3 guy. It's just that it's probably, for me, the best guy that Sean O'Malley's fought, except for Marlon Chiovera.
But is he the same guy? I mean, like, we're talking about this fight. Is he that same guy that beat them when he's lost 4 of his last 5?
Probably.
You're a different fighter when you've lost that much. You just are. And, you either back on track or not. Had he won, sure, we could say, okay, that's the fighter we saw in those wins. But he had lost significant. He could probably be out of. He probably lost his job. If we being real, he can't beat top guys anymore, and he's losing the top guys. And he just lost to a guy who may or may not be a top guy. So he's probably just lost his job. That's 5 of his last 6 now. So.
Well, I don't think it was a no contest. This was a no contest, so
whatever.
It's still not great for you if you're on a contract and you're not.
You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
That's 5 of his last 6. He lost that fight. That's the end of that.
Like, well, I'm not telling you. Sean O'Malley celebrated a bit. I was going to get asked that as well. Did you find that a bit strange? How basketball throwing up the shot like he's done after a few of his knockouts, like he did that, like he won the fight. I was a bit surprised at that, to be honest.
He's a clown. I wasn't surprised. It was just stupid. I was like, you idiot. It was stupid.
It was strange.
I really didn't get why he did it. I was like, you're gonna celebrate that win? And it's not even a win, like you said, but like, you're gonna celebrate that? That's not a win for you. That's stupid. Like, it wasn't a TKO. You know what I mean? It's not a TKO. You didn't win that fight. And, that's kind of a bullshit way to win anyway. Like, you didn't land a significant strike that you meant to do. And it's not like a knockout. It's not a knockout. It's not. You didn't knock him out of the fight. He's just out of it. Very different. That dude would take anything, any scraps, any win. He probably goes to the YMCA and beat people at basketball, knock people out there and sparring and shit. It's just weird. But like I said, he didn't really he didn't step up and face a guy who was a quality fighter at the moment anyway. We're talking about what he did in the past. What he had done recently was get his ass whooped, or lose. He's a loser now. And UFC cuts losers. So I get what you're saying. He was a step up in name and in theory, but in actuality, he wasn't, because he lost so much. He's not the same fighter. So he was in a mental place where Sean O'Malley could easily beat him in any sense of the word, mentally or physically. So fuck all that bullshit. Give him a real fight, man. Give Sean O'Malley a real fight, please. Well, not just a name on paper, because if you go look at his record, it's like, oh shit, this dude's losing now. Mm-hmm. Go look at Donald Cerrone.
I like. Yeah.
He's in the same boat where he's not the same fighter, and I don't love it no more. Yeah, I bet you don't, because you're getting your ass whooped now. He doesn't have a ton of losses, but like he's got enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No. It's good. I like, because you always do this. You always like say what I'm going to bring up next is brilliant. We're going to we'll obviously run out of time here. We'll continue maybe this talk off here. But Sean, just to finish up, it was a good a card at UFC 276. A fun one. It was fun to talk about. But I'd like your opinion. We're talking there about who O'Malley should face next. I'd like you to do that for the whole card, whole main card. I should say. We had Sean O'Malley versus Pedro Munoz next. Would you like to see them run that back, or would you rather see O'Malley fight someone else? And if so, who?
Someone else. Pedro Munoz. I just told you that he's unemployed, so he's gonna be unemployed.
Who would you like to see Sean O'Malley fight next?
You got to name some people. Pedro Munoz,
he
wasn't it.
In the bantamweight division, Sean O'Malley is ranked 13. Below him, Ricky Simon. Sorry, above him, Ricky Simon. Whew. There you go. I didn't even look below or above that. Ricky Simon, my God.
That's good. That's a good fight.
That's a great fight. Ricky Simon is jacked to the gills. I mean, this dude is and he's on a good run. He's looking brilliant.
He needs that win, too. He needs to stop an up-and-coming guy to make sure that he's the one that people are looking at. So he needs that win. He's going to be hungry. O'Malley needs to win, too, because it's somebody right in front of him who not necessarily up-and-coming, because you've been there longer than him. Someone who also can be looked at as up-and-coming. Someone who's a little bit more established than O'Malley. Just a little bit, but still.
We're agreeing on that. I think Ricky Simon would be good for O'Malley next. Pedro Munoz, we'll see what happens with him. Brian Barberena in the welterweight division, obviously not ranked. You could put him in the likes of, you would be 15, 14, 30 type guys. I would probably, Michel Pereira, that would be another fun fight. He's ranked at 15 right now. Robbie Lawler, opinion quickly on him. Do you think he should retire, or do you think because he did look good before he got, obviously,
People that should have retired. Jessica I. Actually, Jessica I shouldn't have. But she did, so I'm going to say, yeah, whatever. I'm going to agree with her. She should have went to PFL and got some money because there's bums over there. Kayla Harrison beat another grandma.
This dude, man.
He beat another homeless woman that could barely, Actually, I'm playing around. I'm joking.
You're playing. We know.
Oh my God,
we know you're playing.
Makes me so mad. So people who should have retired: Jessica I. Immediately following that, Robbie Lawler, Cowboy Cerrone, Jim Miller,
and Max Holloway.
Who else? I think that's it. Yeah, and Max Holloway. So yeah, there you go. That's everybody who should retire.
I agree. I think Robbie Lawler should hang it up.
He can go to PFL and make some money.
I think Robbie. I don't think Robbie's done in total combat.
Rory McDonald's over there.
You know what I'd love to see from Sean, from Rory. Sorry, not Rory. Robbie Lawler. I'd love to see him in some of that triad, some of that celebrity boxing. Because I know those exhibitions, I don't want him in fights that are against former world boxing champions like they did with Evander Holyfield. And no one wants that. I'm just saying fun fights, Robbie Lawler against competitive guys, nothing like a world champion in boxing, but where he can make a lot of money and something that he can keep his platform. Because I think what Robbie's done really well recently is building up other guys around him. He's done well at Sanford MMA. And he's, Robbie's a legend. He's a class act, always has been. He got a big pop during the week, and he deservedly so, because he is just one of the all-time good guys in the sport.
I think he needs to go to PFL, man. I
just don't want to see.
That's where you get.
Yeah, I just don't want to see him get in fights where he's taking loads of damage and stuff. I want him in fun fights where he's not killing himself.
He won't do that in PFL. Ain't nobody down there. Nobody really doing
that. I don't know. I just want to get, maybe, yeah. We'll see. But
I want him to get paid, and he still wants to fight, so that's
facts,
fine. If
facts.
Cowboy went over there, that'd be great too. But like, if you're gonna keep fighting, go get a payday. Go get it now. Go fight. Like Daniel Tosh had a joke on one of his specials about Brett Favre being a backup. He was like, "Man, you still make like hundreds of thousands of dollars as a backup. So why?" He was like, "Man, if you're Brett Favre, why don't you just get on a practice team and make like $100,000 a year? Like, why not? You don't have to play, and you could probably get a ring. And guess what? If they really, really, really need you, you might be in a playoff game. You might get to the Super Bowl and win another ring. You never know. So, if you're a Cowboy Cerrone and you're still good, you might win a championship at another level. I know. Well, I want to face the best guys. You don't know who the hell's coming out of PFL. Ask Anthony Pettis if they're bums over there because he's getting knocked out.
He's getting submitted by Stevie Ray, so that's what I'm saying now.
Right, he's sitting up there losing. He's sitting up there losing, man. I think he got knocked out of like his debut, I think. Or it might have been submission. Anyway, my point is, people are over there losing. That Jeremy Stevens, he lost too. Just because you came from UFC don't mean you're gonna win. You want to test yourself and think and see if you still got it. Go test yourself against these younger guys who are hungry, and maybe make a name for yourself in PFL and make some money too.
We're gonna combine Izzy and Pereira because we both would like to see that next. I think we can agree on that.
Right.
Strickland.
That's next, anyway.
That is next anyway. It's definitely going to be next. Strickland, you've got Vettori, you've got Derek Brunson, you've got Paulo Costa. I think the Paulo Costa one stands out to me. Definitely one where there could be top heat in between them, and that could be a main event at a fight night, and I think I would have a lot of attention.
Oh yeah, that's a great fight.
Yeah,
that's a great fight night there. He beats Costa, then he kills Vettori.
The main one I wanted to bring this up for, Sean, is obviously Max Holloway. I probably second your opinion on him probably retiring. I don't think, for what it's worth, I think what we seen last night of how second best Max was in that fight, I feel like it would happen again. Maybe not to the exact same extent, because I think Volkanovski performed incredibly well, but I feel like what people would say would be like, okay, Max needs just one or two, maybe maximum two tune-up fights to get back to that position to fight. Even if he was to beat two of the top three guys that like he probably would do and get back, who's even to say that he deserves to get a fourth attempt, even if there's no one about? No. I think Max Holloway should retire. I think you would agree. The interesting one is, what does Alexander Volkanovski do? Does he stay in this division and dominate like he has been doing? Does he move up to 155 and fight Charles Oliveira?
He's not gonna ever make it to Charles Oliveira. This is what gave me all the respect for him. He said he just wants to fight. He said, "You see me, this is what I do. I want to keep busy. I want to keep fighting." It wasn't from a place of pure dominance, and he was like, "I'm that good. Yeah, I should win." Like, he said all the right things. Like, yeah, I believe in myself that I could win another title. He said, because he even threw in like an if. Like, there was some self-doubt in there. He was like, if I get if I get the title, like he structured it to where he built himself up, not just he's going to come in and get the other title. He basically said he's a workhorse, and he just wants to work. It sounds great to me. So give him whatever he wants if he's willing to work for it. He's I don't know. He's just. I was trying to think of a pro wrestling analogy, but no, he's great. He's not gassing himself up in the way that why can I think Canelo did. He's not doing that. He's not like, oh, I can just do everything, fight everybody. That's what he did do at first. He was doing that at first when he was talking about going up another level. But like after the fight, he was very humble in it, saying, hey, this is what I would like to do. This is the path to it. And this is what I would hope to accomplish. Very different than I'm just going to go take another belt. Charles Oliveira rips his head off, obviously. But no, you know who he needs to get, and he's a lot. This is his test, and this is a great fight for him. Do you know what name I'm going to say?
For Volkanovski?
Because he's a lot like him. Yeah, he's a lot like this guy. I mean, he's a lot like the guy he's a lot like an opponent that this guy faced and knocked out and took his title.
For me, I was thinking
Eddie Alvarez. He's a lot like Eddie Alvarez, so he needs to fight Conor McGregor.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yes.
I was thinking
he was so undersized that
yeah.
Eddie Alvarez got his ass whooped. So if Volkanovski wants to prove himself, give him a money fight. Like I said, give him what he wants. Give him a money fight. Give him a tune-up fight to make sure he matters. And here's the great part. If Conor McGregor loses, we can still give him an out and say, well, that's a champion in another division. So this is your best bet. It is going to give him a ton of money. It's going to give Volkanovski the praise and everything. And Conor gets an out. Or if he beats him, he automatically can say, put me in a title fight against Oliveira. You know? So we can do that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how we jump from there to there.
Obviously,
that's how we jump from there to there.
So you're thinking maybe McGregor. I don't.
Maybe McGregor. I just told you McGregor. Yes.
Okay.
No maybes. It's got to be McGregor.
Definitely McGregor.
Eddie Alvarez factor. The Eddie Alvarez factor is what I'm thinking of. He's undersized. He would be an undersized guy that fights like Eddie Alvarez going up against Conor McGregor. If he wins, then then he's legit. If not, then get out of here. Bye.
I don't want to see Volkanovski fight at one. I'd like to see him chase greatness, and I think he's in the position to do that. I think he's at literally the prime of his career. There's guys where they're in their primes and it's a few years. There's guys that are having the year of their life, and it's like everything's coming together, and that's where he's at right now. So why not cash in on that? The problem is Charles Oliveira is exactly at the same point. And for me, that would be a strange watch, because Charles, for me, I just couldn't
He's too
see.
Big, man.
It would be a Canelo Bivol. It's like, Volkanovski's the Canelo. Like, oh my God, who's going to stop this guy? He's 20-fight win streak. He's pound for pound number 2. Charles Oliveira probably would do what Bivol did, and I don't really know if I want to see that.
He has to prove himself though. Like he wants to jump. It's cool. He's not Izzy, and it's different. It's very different. Very different.
I think for me, outside of obviously continuing to dominate his division, which he's beat pretty much everyone else, and Josh Emmett's coming in. Josh Emmett, in terms of a fan, for me, the best opinion out there would be Henry Cejudo, who's coming back out of the pool to go up to featherweight and try and become a triple champion. I think he might. I think Henry Cejudo's announced his comeback. Listen, you can take everything he says with a pinch of salt. What you know is the guy is an elite fighter. For me, out of going up to lightweight, staying in his own division to fight maybe Josh Emmett, probably not Calvin King, Arnold Allen's on the rise, waiting for an up-and-comer, I would probably, if I had to pick one right now, it would be Henry Cejudo.
If Henry Cejudo beats Volkanovski, he'd be the greatest of all time.
Ending on a bombshell.
Hold on. How is he not? He has beaten 2 people we largely consider as GOATs. Like not actual GOATs, but like Demetrius Johnson.
Demetrius Johnson.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know I messed up.
He'd be a 3-weight world champion.
Mighty Mouse. He beat Mighty Mouse. He beat Dominic Cruz. He beat didn't he knock out Dillashaw too? And he beat up Dillashaw. No, ain't no come on. Dominic Cruz. He beat that guy, the guy better.
He beat Dominic Cruz.
He beat those 3 guys.
Was like 38.
Okay.
I don't see that as the Dominic Cruz.
Fine.
I don't know if you can have
fine. Yeah, I mean, but
TJ
nobody's
coming
really
down when he was
nobody.
killing himself to make that weight when he was like a zombie, and that was when he was on the what's that, the drug,
I forget.
that's going to annoy me. EPO. He's on the EPO. So
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
But
You
hold on.
probably have an
But no,
argument.
here's the icing. Here's the icing. Volkanovski.
Oh, for sure.
Volkanovski did this to Max. He did this to Max. And then Henry Cejudo can come in and just take that title. The only other guy to come in and just take a title after being gone like that was the other GOAT, who is George St. Pierre. And if Henry Cejudo does it and wants a title in the third division, he will, boom, done. It's done. The math is there to do it. It's not really an argument. If we're talking about in terms of accomplishments, he would one up GSP in it. And it's hard to just say, no, like, because GSP, who did he beat? He beat legends too. He beat a GOAT. He beat Matt Hughes. That was the GOAT before him, Matt Hughes. Right? So you gotta beat the guys before, that came before you, and then you gotta do something that they didn't do. GSP's was coming back and winning that title. If Henry Cejudo does what he did, but against a Volkanovski, come on, because that's Volkanovski, not Michael Bisping, that kind of shouldn't have had it. You know what I mean? Like that title bounced around from Rockhold, from Weidman to Rockhold to Bisping. It had already changed hands quite a few times. Yeah. This belt's been in two people's hands for like 10 years. Just saying.
No, you make a good point. And as always, Sean leaves us on a bombshell. Whether or not you would probably, fans watching, agree with my opinion on Triple C, Sean with Conor McGregor, definitely outgoing takes on who Alexander Volkanovski should fight next. But listen, we'll see what happens. What we do know is right now he is undeniably the best featherweight on the planet. One of the best fighters in the world, and pound for pound. Whether you rank him,
is Cejudo. Be ashamed if Cejudo knocked him out.
Well, we're going to see. I think there is life in that matchup. We will see. I mean, Cejudo's calling out O'Malley, so we don't know where it's going to go. But as always, it's been another good episode of the Weekend Warrior Show. We'll be back next Sunday to recap more action, talk about everything ongoing in the MMA/pro wrestling world, as we always do. But that is all we have time for today, so thanks for watching. Have a good week when it comes, and we'll see you next Sunday. Take care, guys. Peace.